Hey everyone, welcome to English Pod, where we make learning English fun with friends. In this series, I'll break down keywords, slang, idioms, and cultural references from each episode to help you improve your English naturally. Watch before or after the episode to boost your understanding. Subscribe and turn on the notifications. Let's dive in.
Hey, you know that moment when you're just like watching something for fun, maybe an old sitcom you've seen a million times,
Uh-huh.
and suddenly a word or a phrase just jumps out and you think, hang on, what does that really mean there? Or where did that come from?
Oh, totally. It really shows you how language is just everywhere, doesn't it? Even when you're just relaxing, there's all this stuff to unpack.
Exactly. And well, that's kind of the idea behind our deep dive today. We're doing something a bit different. We're looking at Friends, Season 1, Episode 4.
The one with George Stephanopoulos. Classic.
Right. A real, 90s pop culture moment.
So we're not just talking about the plot or like Rachel's hair.
No, we're actually digging into the language,
Yeah.
the words, the phrases they used. What can we kind of learn from how these characters talked?
It's a fun way maybe to think about English vocabulary.
Yeah.
And those everyday expressions, you know?
Yeah, our mission, is to show that even something light, like Friends, can be, well, surprisingly useful for understanding language boomer.
We'll look at specific words first, then some common phrases, all from that one episode.
Okay, let's jump in. First word caused a bit of confusion in the episode. Omnipotent.
Right. So Monica asks Joey what he'd do if he were omnipotent.
And omnipotent means what exactly?
You mean having like unlimited power, all powerful, think gods, superheroes, that sort of thing.
Got it. But that's not what Joey hears, is it?
No, and this is the funny part. He hears impotent.
Which is pretty much the opposite.
Exactly. Lacking power. It's a great gag, but it really shows how easily you can mishear things.
Definitely. And how your brain maybe tries to fit an unfamiliar word into something you do know.
Mm-hmm. It really highlights why context and, well, listening carefully matters. The whole joke depends on knowing both words.
Like the writers giving us a little wink.
Yeah. And, another example for omnipotent, you'd often see it used when talking about religious figures or supreme beings. Some people believe gods are omnipotent.
Right. Okay, so from all-powerful to not. Let's shift gears. Ross is talking about his ex-wife, Carol, and he uses the word consummate.
Yes, he does. He says, quite formally, today is the day Carol and I first consummated our physical relationship.
Okay, consummate. What's the specific meaning here?
In this context, it means to complete a marriage or relationship by having sex for the first time.
It sounds very official, almost detached.
It does, doesn't it? Especially for such a personal thing. I mean, it kind of tells you something about Ross's character, maybe.
Yeah.
A bit formal, perhaps, trying to intellectualize it.
Yeah, I think so. You wouldn't normally just drop consummate into a casual chat about that. It definitely carries a different weight.
For sure. Like you might read, they consummated their relationship after years of long-distance dating. It has that sense of finalizing something.
Right, completing the deal almost. Okay, moving over to Phoebe. She's talking about her grandmother and her boyfriend.
Ah, yes. And she says they're both kind of insecure in bed. Pretty direct.
Insecure. We hear that word a lot. Here it means
Just lacking confidence, basically. Feeling anxious or uncertain. In this case, specifically about, well, that intimate part of their relationship.
it feels very relatable, though, that feeling of self-doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And insecure is so versatile, isn't it? You can be insecure about your job, how you look, anything really.
True.
So Phoebe's line, while it's funny, it taps into something quite human. Like you might say she felt insecure about her presentation. Same feeling, different situation.
Makes sense. Okay, next. Monica is encouraging Rachel, says something like, you're doing this amazing independence thing.
Yes. And independence here is key for Rachel's whole story early on.
Meaning like standing on her own 2 feet.
Exactly. Living life without needing help, financially or emotionally. Self-reliance. Which was huge for Rachel coming from her background.
Yeah, cutting the credit cards, it's a big theme. The drive for independence, people moving out, starting fresh.
Mm-hmm. Like moving to a new city helped him gain more independence. It's about taking control.
Totally. Okay, now for the word from this episode. Floopy.
Ah, floopy, Rachel says. Now everything's just kind of like floopy.
And this isn't actually a real word, is it?
Nope, it's pure slang, pretty much made up for the show. But it took off, which is amazing, really. Shows how TV can influence language.
But you instantly know what she means.
You do. It
Yeah.
perfectly captures that feeling of being, I don't know, adrift, uncertain, lost, unsettled. Her life's just been turned upside down.
It just sounds uncertain, doesn't it? Floopy.
Yeah, kind of. It's almost more evocative because it's not a precise word. Like, after losing her job, she felt floopy for a while. You get it immediately.
It really stuck. Okay, so after all the drama, Monica and Phoebe decide to have what was it? A slumber party thing.
Right. A slumber party? Classic sleepover,
Yeah,
basically. Usually girls or young women staying overnight.
games, talking late, junk food.
Exactly. That kind of informal bonding time. Like, we stayed up all night watching movies at the slumber party. Pretty standard.
Takes you back. Okay, less fun now. The pizza delivery guy shows up at the wrong place and calls himself a bonehead.
Bonehead, yeah. Bonehead.
So bonehead just means...
Stupid, essentially.
Right.
A foolish person, someone who made a dumb mistake. He's obviously mad at himself.
Definitely not a term of endearment.
No. You might say, he forgot the keys again. What a bonehead move. It's pretty insulting.
Poor pizza guy. Okay, later, Chandler makes a joke about a predicament room.
Classic Chandler. So a predicament is basically a tricky situation. Difficult, unpleasant, maybe embarrassing.
So a predicament room is where you go when you're in trouble.
That's the joke, yeah. Playing on the formality of the word predicament. Like you might hear about a company facing a financial predicament. It implies a serious, awkward spot.
Got it. And speaking of awkward spots, Ross literally ends up with a mark on his face. A dent.
Right, he says, my face is dented. A dent is just that, a little hollow mark, an indentation, usually from getting hit or pressure.
Like on a car door after a bump.
Exactly, there was a dent in the car door. Simple as that. For Ross, it's kind of a physical sign of his emotional state, maybe. Played for laughs, of course.
His pride might be dented, too. Okay, back to Phoebe's grandmother again. Phoebe says they're constantly having to reassure each other.
Reassure. That means to say or do things to make someone feel less doubtful or scared, to boost their confidence.
So if they need constant reassurance...
Yeah, it kind of suggests they're not genuinely confident in the relationship, right? Maybe covering up those insecurities we talked about.
Sounds tiring.
Mm-hmm. Like,
Yeah.
he reassured her that everything would be fine. That's the basic idea. Removing doubt.
Okay. Now, for the slumber party, Monica mentions getting some trashy magazines.
Trashy. In this context, it means like low quality, maybe a bit lacking in good taste, sensational perhaps.
Like celebrity gossip mags or certain types of novels.
Exactly. Sometimes called a guilty pleasure. She loves reading trashy romance novels on the beach.
Yeah.
It implies enjoying something maybe not considered very sophisticated.
We've all got those. Okay, then they're talking about spotting George Stephanopoulos, and Phoebe asks about a power tie.
Yes. A power tie. That was a thing, especially back then. It's usually a bold tie, often red, worn to project confidence, authority.
Like in a business meeting or an interview.
Precisely. He wore a red power tie to the job interview. It was meant to make a statement. Confidence, power.
Got it. A visual cue.
Yep.
And Monica wants more details. Was he wearing a stunning blue suit?
Stunning. Just means really impressive, extremely attractive, something that really catches your eye.
Like, wow.
Yeah. She looks stunning in her wedding dress. It implies exceptional beauty or impressiveness. Monica's clearly imagining him looking very sharp.
Definitely. Okay, now there's a line from Phoebe. It's not really about vocabulary, but it's brilliant. She just deadpans. Look, I have elbows.
Oh, that's perfect, Phoebe. It's pure sarcasm, right?
Totally.
She's not teaching us what elbows are. She's using something incredibly obvious and mundane to make fun of how dramatic Monica and Rachel are being.
By matching their exaggerated tone with something totally basic.
Exactly. It's humor through understatement and context. Shows how delivery can completely change the meaning. A great example of comedic timing.
Absolutely. Okay, one last word from this section. Monica mentions something about unusual activity on an account.
Right. Unusual activity. This phrase is super common in like banking or finance.
Like when your credit card company calls.
Precisely. It means transactions or actions on your account that are outside your normal pattern, often flagged as potentially fraudulent. The bank called me because of unusual activity. Something unexpected.
Okay, that makes sense. Wow, quite a range of words from just one episode.
It really is.
Okay, let's switch now to some common phrases used in the episode. First up, just a simple, friendly question from Monica. Hey, what are you up to tonight?
Yeah, what are you up to? Super common, very informal. Just means, what are you doing? Or what are your plans?
A standard way to start a conversation, see what someone's doing later.
Totally. Hey, what are you up to this weekend? Same vibe. Very natural.
Definitely. Okay, then we have Rachel starting her new life, and the idea of giving it a shot comes up.
Give it a shot means to try something,
Mm.
especially if it's new or you're not sure how it'll turn out.
So Rachel's giving independence a shot.
Exactly. Taking a chance, seeing if she can do it. Like, I've never tried skiing before, but I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
It's about making an attempt.
Taking that first step.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes things go wrong, like with the pizza order, and someone has to take the heat.
Right. Take the heat. That just means accepting the blame or the criticism when something messes up.
Like nobody wanted to admit they ordered the wrong pizza.
Pretty much. Nobody wanted to be the one responsible to face the consequences. So taking the heat is owning the mistake. Okay, I'll take the heat for this. It was my fault.
Been there. Okay, so Phoebe ends up saying over, which leads to the phrase crash on someone's couch.
Yeah, to crash on the couch or crash at someone's place, it's very informal. It means sleeping there temporarily, often unplanned.
Like if you miss the last train home.
Exactly. Can I crash on your couch tonight? It implies it's just a short-term, casual arrangement. Perfect for Phoebe's situation, then.
A very useful phrase sometimes. Now Rachel's adjusting. Things are tough. She has to stick it out.
Stick it out. Means to keep going, to persevere, even when something is difficult or unpleasant. Don't give up.
So the advice is, even though it's hard, keep trying.
Yeah. See it through to the end. I know this job is tough, but try to stick it out a bit longer. It's about endurance.
Important life skill. Okay, back to Phoebe's grandmother. She said, they're all over each other.
All over someone, another informal one. Means showing a lot of physical affection. Often used when maybe it seems a bit excessive or public.
Like a couple making out in public.
Could be, yeah. Or just being very touchy-feely. They were all over each other at the party. It was a bit much. It implies very demonstrative behavior.
Okay, got it. Now, sometimes people aren't very kind when you mess up. They might rub it in.
Yeah. To rub it in. That means constantly reminding someone about their mistake or something embarrassing, basically to make them feel worse.
Like Chandler teasing Ross about his marriage.
That's the implication, yeah. Not letting him forget his pain. It's often meant playfully, maybe, but it can easily come across as mean. I know I failed the test, stop rubbing it in.
Definitely not cool. Okay, so after a stressful day, the girls decide to hang out, to blow off steam.
Right. Blow off steam means doing something to release stress, tension, or strong emotions, like letting pressure out.
So watching movies, chatting, relaxing, that's their way.
Seems like it. It could be anything, really. Going for a run, playing music loud, venting to a friend. After work, I go jogging to blow off steam. It's about de-stressing.
Very necessary. Now, Ross reflecting on his marriage, the phrase go through with it seems relevant to, like, the wedding itself.
Yeah, go through with it.
Yeah.
Means to proceed with something you planned or agreed to do, even if it becomes difficult or you have second thoughts.
So even with doubts, you do it anyway.
Pretty much. You follow through. Ross went through with the wedding, started the marriage. He was nervous about the speech, but decided to go through with it anyway. It implies overcoming hesitation.
Okay. Then Monica talking about George Stephanopoulos. She says, I'm into politics.
Be into something or someone. Very common, casual phrase. Just means you like it, you're interested in it.
So she's saying she likes politics.
Exactly. She's really into photography these days. It shows enthusiasm or a strong interest. Simple as that.
Easy one. And with the pizza arriving, there's the implied question of who will pick up the check.
Pick up the check.
Right.
Means to pay the bill, usually at a restaurant or cafe.
So who's paying for the pizza, especially with Rachel being newly independent?
Right. That's the underlying dynamic, perhaps. Usually someone offers, like, don't worry, I'll pick up the check tonight, means I'll pay.
Always nice to hear. Okay, then there's that moment with the waiter. We're out of beer.
Be out of something. Just means you don't have any more left. It's gone. Unavailable.
Simple supply issue.
Exactly. Sorry, we're out of milk.
Yeah.
Very common phrase in shops or restaurants.
A mini tragedy for beer lovers. Now, poor Ross is obviously feeling sad about everything. It's getting him down.
Yes, to get someone down means to make them feel sad, unhappy, or demoralized.
So the situation with Carol is making Ross depressed.
That's the idea. Don't let one bad result get you down. It means don't let it make you feel miserable.
Hopefully his friends helped. Then there's the phrase, be on a roll, used kind of humorously.
Yeah, be on a roll usually means you're having a series of successes, like a winning streak. Everything's going right.
But for the friends characters, maybe not so much.
Often, yeah.
Yeah.
So the humor comes from using that phrase when things are actually a bit chaotic or unsuccessful. It's
Yeah.
ironic. The standard use is like, he's won 3 games in a row. He's really on a roll.
Right. The contrast is funny. Okay, last one. Ross is trying to come to terms with Carol leaving.
Come to terms with something. This means gradually accepting a difficult or unpleasant situation, learning to live with it.
It's a process, right? Not instant.
Definitely. Ross is just starting that process of accepting the end of his marriage. Like, she's finally come to terms with the breakup. It implies reaching a point of acceptance, even if it's still hard.
Makes sense. Wow. So you can really see, even in, 20-odd minutes of a sitcom, how much everyday language is packed in there.
Absolutely. A piece of pop culture you sent over.
That's right. Friends, Season 1, Episode 4, the one with George Stephanopoulos.
A classic.
Totally. And, on the surface, it's just a funny 90s sitcom episode. But when you look a bit closer...
There's actually a lot packed in there, isn't there?
For sure. Little snapshots of American culture from that specific time, the mid-90s, and some really clear examples of English grammar being used naturally.
Right. So the mission today for everyone listening is kind of twofold. First, explore those cultural references, things that might just, fly over your head if you weren't around then or aren't deep into U.S. culture.
And second, to point out how the characters actually use grammar in everyday chat. Nothing too heavy, just noticing it in context.
Think of it as getting the jokes and understanding the language better at the same time. Maybe a little nostalgia trip, too.
Definitely. Okay, so let's dive in. First up, that name in the title. George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah. Who was he in the 90s? For people who don't remember.
Well, he was a pretty big deal back then. He was President Clinton's senior political advisor, then the press secretary for a while. So he was on TV. A lot.
So, like, a political figure, but also kind of a media personality?
Exactly. Almost a celebrity in his own right, especially inside the Beltway. But his face was recognizable nationally.
Which explains why the gang getting his pizza by mistake felt like such a huge, exciting thing.
Totally. It taps into that New York City thing, that proximity to fame, but it's also about his specific profile at that moment. He was someone involved in, big national stuff.
Right. It's maybe like, I don't know, getting Taylor Swift's mail accidentally delivered today. Maybe not quite that level, but that kind of brush with fame feeling.
Yeah, something like that. It's about the unexpected connection to someone perceived as important or, well, famous. Phoebe's reaction, oh my God, it's George Stephanopoulos' pizza, that really nails the surprise.
Captures it perfectly.
And it shows how certain people become these cultural reference points, even if just for a specific era. Stephanopoulos in 95, he meant something specific.
Okay, so moving from political figures to, well, space food. The dehydrated enchilada.
Yes. Okay, so first off, it is an enchilada, the Mexican dish. Tortilla, filling, sauce.
Right.
But dehydrated means all the water's been taken out. It's basically astronaut food designed for, long shelf life in space.
And the joke is bringing it up at a hockey game.
Exactly. It's the contrast. You've got this very, earthy, normal American event, a hockey game, and then someone mentions this super weird high-tech food.
Implying it's probably gross.
Totally. It's a way to joke about how unappealing space food is often perceived to be. Chandler's line is perfect, right? He says it tastes like a chewy sponge.
Ugh. Yeah, that paints a picture.
It connects to that wider joke about astronaut food, like astronaut ice cream. Sounds cool, but the reality is often less than delicious.
So it's a stand-in for any food that sounds fancy or scientific, but is probably pretty bad.
Pretty much. And this whole debate happens against the backdrop of the New York Rangers game at Madison Square Garden.
Which is also significant culturally speaking.
Absolutely. The Rangers, major NHL team. Madison Square Garden, or the Garden, is just this iconic arena in New York. Going to a game there, it's a big deal.
It's more than just watching hockey, right? It's a whole experience.
Exactly. A shared thing for New Yorkers, showing team spirit, being part of the crowd. It's a real American pastime.
So when Ross yells, we're going to the Ranger game at the Garden, everyone gets why that's exciting.
Right. It's like saying you're off to Yankee Stadium to watch the Yankees. It carries that cultural weight, that sense of place and tradition.
Okay, so the guys have their night out. Meanwhile, the girls are having a very different kind of gathering.
Yeah.
A slumber party.
Yeah, another one of those, classic American pop culture things.
Define it for us.
Sure, a slumber party or a sleepover. It's just when friends, often young girls traditionally, but really any group, stay overnight at one person's house.
And the agenda is usually...
Oh, Watching movies, eating snacks, probably junk foods, staying up way too late, talking, gossiping, just bonding.
It's become this symbol of friendship, especially teenage friendship, hasn't it?
Definitely. So when Rachel suggests, let's have a slumber party, it immediately brings that whole image to mind. A fun, relaxed night in.
Pajamas, maybe some truth or dare, sharing secrets.
Mm.
We've seen it in countless movies.
Exactly. It taps right into that shared cultural script.
Interesting how these simple things carry so much meaning. Okay, next reference. The Barbie Dream House.
Ah, yes. The Pink Palace.
So for anyone who doesn't know, the Barbie Dream House is this huge, iconic toy house for Barbie dolls. Usually very pink, very elaborate.
It represents this kind of idealized, perfect home in the toy world. Very aspirational for young girls, traditionally.
And Rachel mentions it in a really interesting way.
She does. She says something like, instead of learning how to balance a checkbook, I was given a Barbie dream house.
Wow. Okay, so she's using it metaphorically.
Totally. It's a symbol for her upbringing, maybe a bit sheltered, focused on appearances or fantasy, rather than practical life skills, like managing money.
That contrast between the fantasy house and real-world finances, it says a lot.
It really does. You sometimes hear people say, maybe slightly critically, oh, she grew up in a Barbie dream world, meaning, pampered, maybe unrealistic expectations.
Got it. A very concise way to signal that background. Okay, moving on to something more figurative. The blue bellhop.
Right. So a bellhop is, the person in a hotel, usually in uniform, who helps guests with luggage, opens doors, runs errands.
Like a porter.
Exactly. Now, blue bellhop, that sounds like a made-up name. Maybe fictional, maybe just symbolic. The blue might even hint at feeling down, or maybe it's just the color of a uniform.
And Phoebe uses it metaphorically.
Yes. She says, reflecting on her past, that was my blue bellhop. She's not talking about an actual job.
So what does she mean?
She means that some experience, maybe a seemingly minor or even unpleasant one, ended up being a real turning point for her, a catalyst, something that made her realize she needed to change direction or grow.
Ah, like a wake-up call disguised as a mundane moment.
Precisely. It's a personal metaphor for that kind of pivotal experience. You could say, like, that terrible internship was my blue bellhop. It made me realize what I didn't want to do.
That makes sense, recognizing those moments that shift things. Okay, next up, a children's book, Pat the Bunny.
Oh, Pat the Bunny. So well known in the U.S.
Tell us about it.
It's this classic interactive book for very young children, toddlers, really. The whole point is that it's tactile. Kids can literally pat the fuzzy bunny, feel daddy's scratchy beard, look in a little mirror, play peekaboo.
Very hands-on.
Exactly. It engages multiple senses, which is why it's so popular and memorable for little kids.
And Rachel compares her first paycheck to reading it.
Yeah, she says something like, this is my first paycheck. It's like I'm reading Pat the Bunny.
Which is funny.
What's the connection she's making? Well, she's not saying the check is fuzzy. She's expressing this feeling of, like, utter novelty. This is something completely new to her, this adult thing of earning money. She feels like a beginner, maybe a bit like a child encountering something basic for the first time.
Like that feeling of innocent discovery almost. Dealing with something grown up but feel like a kid doing it.
Exactly. It highlights her inexperience in that moment. You might feel that way starting a complex new task, trying to figure out this software feels like I'm reading Pat the Bunny, that basic first steps feeling.
Got it. Okay, final cultural point. The Valley Girl voice.
The Thal speak. Yes, a classic stereotype.
So what defines it?
It's basically a caricature of how teenage girls from the San Fernando Valley in California supposedly talked, especially back in the 80s and 90s. Think, like, high-pitched tone.
Lots of like.
Oh, yeah, tons of like, totally, as if, whatever.
Yeah.
And often that rising intonation at the end of sentences. So statements sound kind of like questions. That's called uptalk.
Right.
Now, Rachel doesn't consistently talk like that through the whole series, but in this early episode, yeah, some of her reactions, her general vibe, it definitely leans into that stereotype.
How so?
She can come across as a bit naive, a little dramatic, maybe emphasizing the wrong things. It plays into that image of someone perhaps a bit superficial or out of touch, which was part of the Valley Girl trope.
You can almost hear her saying something like, isn't this like totally amazing, with that upward swing at the end.
Exactly. Or someone describing an event. She's like, oh my God, freaking out,
Yeah.
It's a very specific, very recognizable, and often parodied way of speaking from that era.
Okay, that definitely paints a picture of the cultural landscape.
Yeah.
So should we switch over to the grammar side now? See how the dialogue works?
Yeah, let's do it. Because this is where you see how, everyday talk naturally uses these grammatical structures we sometimes learn about in a really abstract way. Let's start with the present perfect tense.
Okay, present
And-
perfect, that's have or
Ye-
has plus the past participle, right? Like
Mm.
have seen or has gone.
Exactly. And we use it for a few key things. Experiences at some point in the past, but we're not saying exactly when. Or things that just happened. Or things that started in the past and are still relevant now.
Like Rachel getting her paycheck.
Perfect example. She says, "This is the first time I've ever gotten a paycheck." See? I have gotten it. She's not saying when she got it, just that this is a life experience happening now for the first time.
It connects the past, never getting one before, to the present.
Er,
Get in this one.
Precisely. Or think about, I've never seen a Rangers game. It's about your life experience up to now. Or asking, have you ever tried dehydrated food? Again, asking about any time in your past.
Okay, so that's the present perfect.
Yeah.
How does that compare to the past simple?
Good question. The past simple is for actions that are definitely finished and usually happen at a specific time in the past. You form it mostly with ed, like watched, played, or irregular verbs like went, saw, ate.
Yeah, we see that too.
Oh, yeah. Ross says, I went to see Carol in season. Went, past simple of go. It was a specific trip. It's over. Or if they said, we watched the game last night. Watched completed action, last night, specific time. Or maybe Rachel cried when she opened the envelope. Cried, finished action at that moment.
So present perfect is more about experience or connection to now. Past simple is about finished actions at a specific time.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, next up. Using used to for past habits.
Yeah, that's a handy one.
Super useful. It's for talking about things that were true or happened regularly in the past, but not anymore. The structure is simple. Used to, plus the basic form of the verb.
Does anyone actually say used to in this episode?
I don't recall a specific line jumping out, but it's easy to imagine them using it. Like Rachel could easily say, I used to live with my parents, or I used to rely on my dad's credit card.
Implying she doesn't do those things now.
Exactly. That change is key. Or someone might say, I used to hate hockey, but now I love it. Or we used to have slumber parties all the time back in high school. Past habit, now finished.
Got it. Okay, what about tag questions? You used one earlier, didn't you?
Yes, I did. See, they're infectious. Tag questions are those little mini questions you stick on the end of a statement.
Like it's cold today, isn't it?
Exactly. You make a statement, then add a short question that usually has the opposite auxiliary verb. Positive statement, negative tag. Negative statement, positive tag.
And the point is,
Usually to check if the other person agrees, or just to keep the conversation flowing, invite a response.
do they use them in the episode?
Yep. Monica, looking at Rachel's paycheck, says, it's nice, isn't it? Statement. It's nice. Tag. Isn't it? She's checking Rachel's reaction.
Makes sense. Other examples could be, you saw George Stephanopoulos, didn't you? Or, that wasn't very nice, was it?
Perfect examples. Very common in spoken English. Right next. Modal verbs.
Okay, those are the helper verbs, right? Can, could, should, would, might.
That's them. And they're powerful because they add all sorts of nuance, possibility, advice, ability, requests, obligation, hypothetical ideas.
Where do we see modals in the episode?
Well, Phoebe uses one when they're debating spying on George Stephanopoulos. She says something like, we could just not do it. Could here is suggesting an alternative, a possibility.
Okay.
But you could imagine tons of others. Maybe I might go apologize. Possibility. You should tell him how you feel. Advice. He can't be serious. Disbelief in ability. Would you pass the pizza? Request. Would they add flavor?
Definitely. Okay, how about just basic questions, like in the present tense?
Good one. For simple present tense questions, we usually need the helpers do or does. It's do or does, then the subject, then the base form of the main verb.
When do you use do versus does?
Does is for third person singular he, she, it, or a singular noun like Monica. Do is for everything else I, you, we, they, plural nouns.
So Rachel might ask anxiously, do you think he'll call? Even though she's talking about the future.
Exactly. The main verb structure uses do because the subject is you. Or someone might ask, does Phoebe like hockey? Phoebe is third person singular. Or do they know who lives across the hall? They is plural.
Simple structure once you see it.
Okay.
What about there is and there are?
Essential for stating existence.
Yeah.
Basically, this thing exists. Use there is, or the contraction there's, for singular things. Use there are for plural things.
Monica uses this.
Yep, when the pizza confusion starts, she says, there's a pizza guy downstairs. There is one pizza guy, stating his existence and location.
Straightforward. Other examples. There's no milk left. Singular. There are 3 guys at the door.
Plural.
Exactly. Okay, nearly there. Let's talk about adding some emotion with exclamatory sentences.
You mean like shouting?
Not necessarily shouting, but expressing strong feelings, surprise, excitement, disgust, whatever. They often start with what plus a noun phrase or how plus an adjective or adverb, and often end with an exclamation mark.
Like Phoebe's reaction to the pizza again.
Yeah, her, oh my God, it's George Stephanopoulos' pizza, is a perfect, if informal, exclamation of surprise. A more standard structure might be, what a shock, or how exciting.
Right. Or what a terrible idea, or how strange. Precisely. They add punch. Okay, last one. Type 2 conditionals. The unreal present ones.
Okay, those sound a bit more complex.
They can seem it, but the pattern is pretty regular. We use them for imagining situations that are not true now or are very unlikely. Hypotheticals.
And the structure is.
Usually if plus the past simple tense in the if clause, then would plus the base verb in the main clause.
Do we hear one in the episode?
Again, I don't think there's a direct quote that fits perfectly, but it's easy to imagine. Phoebe, maybe dreaming a little, could say, if I were rich, I would buy this whole building.
So if I were, even though it's I, we often use were in these hypotheticals, sets up the unreal situation. She's not rich.
Exactly. And I would buy is the imagined consequence. Or if I had his number, I would call him, but I don't have his number. If they knew we were watching, they would be furious, but they don't know.
Okay, I think I get it. Imagining things differently from how they are now.
You got it. So yeah, that covers a good range of the grammar points you can spot just by listening closely to how they talk.
Here's a synopsis of Friends, Season 1, Episode 4, the one with George Stephanopoulos. Synopsis. In this episode, the group splits up for 2 different storylines. Monica, Rachel, and Phoebe plan to have a relaxing girls' night but end up spying on George Stephanopoulos, a real-life political figure, when his pizza gets accidentally delivered to Monica's apartment. Their curiosity turns into a night of bonding, secrets, and some wild assumptions about his life. Meanwhile, Ross, Joey, and Chandler head to Madison Square Garden to watch a New York Rangers hockey game, where Ross accidentally gets hit in the face with a puck. As they hang out, Ross reflects on his sadness about his ex-wife Carol's pregnancy, especially since it's the anniversary of their first time together. His friends try to cheer him up, leading to both funny and touching moments.
Thanks for watching. I hope this lesson helped you learn something new and made your friends' experience even more fun. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and share it with your fellow English learners. Subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new episode breakdown. See you in the next one.